Open guard is about transitions. Too often people get tunnel vision and think, I want to play butterfly guard, I want to play outside hook guard, I want to play spider guard, and they get stuck trying to fight for those positions. And there's a time and a place for that. But often the proper thing to do is, if your opponent disrupts what's making that guard work, transition to another guard. And the best way to do this, or the best way to illustrate this, is the transition from the outside hook guard to the inside hook guard. It also comes with a really valuable partner drill that will help you with transitions. And so let's talk about that transition. If I have the outside hook guard, right, a lot of different ways to play it, but the core components, my hook comes from outside to inside, makes an active hook on the inside of Jesse's leg, and this leg is going to be my attack leg. This is my control leg, this is my attack leg. So what makes this guard work is I've immobilized this leg and I've attached myself to him, either with just my hook or with my grip, so if he tries to get away, I stay stuck to him, right? The other thing that makes this guard work is the ability to use this to off-balance him, to set up attacks, things of that nature, trips, shoot triangles, things of that nature. So a lot of times, the first thing somebody is going to do to disrupt this guard is to stuff this hook between their legs, right? Now I can no longer attack. The other thing they can do is if he grips this pant and grips this pant, steps back, kicks his leg straight, now my hook is out, right? So if these things happen, I have to play to another guard. If I just let him do that, go ahead and do it and start knee cutting, see how behind I am already, right? Even though I know what he's gonna do. So what I want to do instead, if my partner tries to stuff my foot, you see how my hips are pointed facing the air and my hook comes from the outside to the inside? If he stuffs my leg, that's pushing this hip down, and I'm just gonna go with that motion. Turning my inside hip down and switching from the outside hook to the inside hook. You'll notice the structure of the hook is the same, it's just it comes from inside to outside, making an active hook on his leg. And just like before, if Jesse tries to get away from me, I stay stuck, right? Now sometimes we can do various things with our hands. We'll get into that in future videos. We can grab the ankle, we can just make frames, we can start to get grips. But the core thing that we want to do here is we change from a guard whose function he has destroyed to a newly functional guard. So here's what we do. And this is going to be a partner drill that y'all can do. Bottom person is going to get the outside hook. Top person is going to stuff this foot. As we do that, we go with the motion, make the inside hook, and our outside foot, which was our hooking foot, is going to step on his hip with our toes pointed in. You saw Jesse earlier innately try to push this foot off the hip, which is exactly right, because if he doesn't do that, he can't come forward and start to pass. We'll get into this more in the outside hook guard series, but if he does that, usually what I'm going to do is just going to pummel over and come right back to the fight. We'll talk about some attacks that can initiate as well. So that transition again, and then we'll do the complete drill. Jesse stuffs my foot. I switch, going from flat on my back to my right hip on the mat. My inside hook comes outside, hooking his thigh. My outside foot steps on his hip with my toes pointing inside. What if, let's rotate this way just a little bit. So what if we're here, and what we've done is we've effectively defended our guard. Now we can stay here and play this inside hook guard instead of attacks, which we'll learn some attacks in a minute. Or we can just stay here and defend, or we can transition back to another guard. So you see my right hip's on the mat, stepping on his hip and hooking. I'm going to lift my hip off the mat, take out the hook, step on the hip. At this point, we can go right back to the outside hook guard. We can, of course, also stay with the 2 feet on the hips and play feet on hips guard if we have grips. But this partner drill, and I'm just going to do the whole thing in a flow. Jesse stuffs my foot, the inside hook guard, lift my hips, step on the hip, feet on hips, back to the outside hook guard. Jesse stuffs my foot, inside hook, lift, out. If you want, you can also transition to the outside hook guard on the other side. If you want to be ambidextrous, and just transition back and forth like that. So a couple of critical points. That transition is a really key transition, because if someone does stuff your foot in the outside hook guard and disrupts your outside hook, you have to move, or else they're going to start initiating guard passing and they're always going to be ahead of you. That is my preferred transition, to go to the inside hook guard. It allows me to safely defend my guard and set up some high percentage attacks. The inside hook guard is also good both gi and no gi. You'll notice I'm not really getting gi grips at any point in this process. But the larger message is, if your guard system gets disrupted, install a new guard system or transition. And so when we do that, we want to be sure to lift our hips off the mat so we're not, so there's no friction, and we can transition smoothly and efficiently to new guards.